Okay, folks, the hour is upon us. We'd like to call to order the Property Committee meeting for Trempealeau County for September 9th, 2024. All certification for open meeting laws, all requirements met. Done. Thank you. We have a 10-item agenda. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve or amend.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we amend the agenda to reflect that item 6 be moved down to below 8A, so it would reflect 8B, so that we can ensure that Rebecca can be here for that.
Okay, I have a motion to amend it. Is there a second? Second. Second by Rich. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Now we need an adoption for the whole agenda as amended.
I so move.
Motion by Renee. Second by Dick. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. All right, everybody had the minutes from the previous meeting. After you read through them, I'll entertain a motion for adoption. If not, for any corrections that might be made.
Also move.
Motion by Rich to approve the previous minutes. Motion by Dick. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Okay, number 5. Members of the public will have a 15-minute block of time to comment on today's agenda items. Members may be present in person or call in to make such comments. To comment by telephone, please call 715-538-1894. Public comments may be extended or curtailed at the discretion of the committee, board chair, and after advisement by the committee or board. Okay, we'll go to 7, the IT department, Tim Robertson. Tim, do you have anything new for us?
Nothing really to cover this week. It's just budget and policies all the time right now. So working on what's left for this year's budget and what's got to be adjusted for the 2025 budget. And then we're working on policies as part of the HIPAA security review that we're doing. So I'm working with the Corporation Counsel's office on that. We've had our pen test. We're in phase 2 of the pen testing, where the firm is trying to find holes in our network. And then, as mentioned previously, we're also doing the HIPAA security review with a third party that's going through all our different policies and making recommendations. That part, we're complete with our part in IT. I think Corp Counsel has a couple more to do, and then we'll be getting a report on that. Everything else is all just vibrating in place, waiting for the big things coming up, which would be the move of dispatch over to their new location with the new equipment. We're still waiting for AT&T on that. And then we're still migrating devices to our virtualized environment and working on various elements there.
Do you have a kind of time frame for getting the whole dispatch center moved, or no?
It's all AT&T.
Oh, it is?
That grant, I don't know how many awards were handed out, but AT&T bit off more than they could chew, I think. So it was originally supposed to be April. Now it's fourth quarter this year, but we still haven't been assigned a project lead from AT&T's side. So if it gets done in 2024, I'll be surprised, because these kind of things take at least 3 months of planning just to get it all lined up so your ducks are in a row. Yeah. My staff is moved into their new digs in the county clerk, the old clerk of court's offices. They're all really content, so they ask that you not mess with their digs, making too many modifications. They haven't had this much space in their entire careers here, so they're just thrilled. Maybe next month we'll have you come over for some tea and coffee or espresso or whatever you need. We got quite the space. So.
It would be nice to see, just to see how they.
Well, stop on by. You know where it is. We are always open to board members coming to visit.
Well, you have a lot of natural light there. I bet they like that. Unless you get the west
IT
sun,
people
don't
aren't
ya?
big fans of light, but yeah.
Oh, I suppose. I suppose, yeah.
No, they're just thrilled. They were in an overgrown closet on top of each other for half a decade, and then before that, they were in the basement. So this is, they're just full of joy. It's wonderful.
Well, that's good. Anybody have any questions for Tim?
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Tim, appreciate it. Okay, next up, Maintenance Department update, Jeremy?
So nothing catastrophic, thankfully, this past month. Just trying to keep up with the PMs that we have going on. Following up with a few of the vendors from the Justice Center, primarily the Green Oasis, going over the plants that have died, things that were under warranty, so they're coming back and planting those before winter steps in and they die again because they're planting them when it's too cold. We haven't had too many plumbing issues in the jail. I've kind of corrected a lot of that stuff with between Sloan, who's the manufacturer of the parts that Zimmerman, the plumber, put in, and then working with Acorn. So the pipes coming apart and stuff like that, we've pretty much, thankfully, we haven't had too much of that lately. It's just when the city was doing some work on the water the other day, and that puts debris in the lines, and then it messes up some of the smaller parts of our plumbing, but that was kind of universal through the whole building. I can't remember if last month or not it was done already, but at the old east entrance, we did put some decals above the door that kind of directing people where the new front entrance of that building, of our new building, is. Because primarily during tax time is when a lot of people were coming in that hadn't been here in a year. That's kind of gone to the wayside, so next year, hopefully, everybody knows where they're going to go, but at least we have some more clear directions on that. Other than that, there's nothing really big this month that needs to be addressed, unless you have any questions for me specifically.
Anybody have any questions for him? I got one. What do you hear on the people who come in and, remember we talked about this at the last meeting a little bit, where the signs at the east side of the building says Trumpealeau County Courthouse, and we were thinking about we had discussed maybe putting a sign out here, or
On the boulevard?
Yeah, so people know where to go, or do we need to put a sign? We were just talking a little bit earlier about out there, because people come down to Main Street and it doesn't tell them where the entrance is to the building, really, Yeah. So I don't know, do we need to even think about putting something out there so people don't see that courthouse sign? And we talked about it over a year ago, and we talked about
Yeah.
even tearing that out.
Yeah.
Because it is it's informative, but it's kind of misleading
It's misleading at this point now.
at the
So
same time.
I do have a price to put a sign up on the boulevard that would fall into my budget. The only thing that I couldn't do at this point in time would be run electricity to it. So, but I could put solar lights out there that would help illuminate that sign in the evening, but it's very few and far between that people are coming here when it's dark anyway. So I can present you with some of the drawings that I have next month and prices that go along with that would fall in line with the budget that I already have this year. So it wasn't going to be a project request, and it would either be putting it kind of near where the dumpster is on the Main
Yeah.
Street side now, or on the boulevard here where it's kind of more prominent on Hobson Street, so when you are looking down the street, you can see it. I can present you with those next month, so you guys can see what I was looking at doing.
Yeah, that'd be good, then the committee could decide which place you want it or what you want to do, because, yeah, it is.
Be helpful.
I see, he was out there scrubbing it this morning, but you got right next to that side, you got the doors with the cones and the ribbon on that says no entry, and I can see if you're coming here for the first time or a second time and you drive by and you come in on the two main highways and the entrance is on the side street, it leaves them a little confused, I think.
Yeah, and especially when the building first opened, there was still a kind of which search engine you used, depending on what address would pop up for a
Yeah.
while. Now everything pretty much pops up with the 18600, so people should know where to go, and the Google Maps brings you right here to where you need to be, but a visual representation up front would be a little bit easier on the street, so.
Okay, does anybody have anything on that for Jeremy? If not, we'll go to the courthouse emergency flip chart. Did you
So
come
for
with
that one from last month, I have a meeting tomorrow that I sent out to all the departments in the building to either have the department heads or a representative from that department. We'll be meeting in here around 10:30. Primarily at that point, the only thing I'm going to be changing is like the evacuation points that are listed in that emergency flip chart. Because on numerous pages, it says to go to the city center, which was the old school, which is no longer here. The way that this building is designed now, though, people are, if in the event of an emergency, I'm gonna have people that are going to be leaving east, south, north, and west. So we have different, each department's gonna have to be kind of responsible for where they're going. Because if the judge's office has to go out north and the DA's office has to go out south, there's no one central rally point, so that department head or their representative will have to know, there was 5 people in your office today, all 5 of them have made it to your position. I've already spoken with the city and got permission in inclement weather for anyone that has to go out north can go to the train depot station or the city offices. I've gotten tentative approval from, I can't remember the name of this church, it's right across the street here, and the Baptist church across the road. That, again, in inclement weather, if we need it, we would be able to have access. Again, it's just tentative approval on those, so that won't be written down on anything yet, because I need permission from the, either that church's property board or the Baptist church pastor who's not in country at the moment. But the representatives that were there now, Scott Brown for the one church said they didn't see it to be a problem, but I just need confirmation on that. So when I meet with the departments, it'll pretty much be that they pick a rally point and where they're going to meet, and show them and updating the fire evacuation maps that are in that. So, but that'll all be taken care of tomorrow.
Yeah, I would think that for the weather part of it, we've got that parking garage underneath there. I mean, you couldn't get anything safer than that. I mean, it's concrete all the way around and block.
In the sheriff's?
In the sheriff's garage.
Yeah, so if
for
we're
the
having, if
weather,
it's a
for fire,
fire
it'd be
alarm and we have to
different, yeah.
evacuate the building, because we have a different rally point for tornadoes, which is
Right.
going to be either the basements of the old building, or as we designated now, the Badger Room downstairs in the sheriff's department, centrally located.
Yeah.
But if you have to evacuate the building completely.
That'd be different, yeah.
And then the biggest option that we had was obviously that shelter that's here in the parking lot by the ball fields. That would be fine if it's raining, but it's not a heated structure, so it's not gonna do any good in the middle of February if we have to evacuate, so.
All right.
But that's all I have. so.
Appreciate you taking the lead on that, Jeremy. Thank
Yep,
you.
that's no problem.
Anyway, all right. Next, we'll go to the Samuels Group. I don't know if Becky, is she going to be on there?
Yes, we would see her, but I can go ahead.
Yeah, if you want to take over, Kurt.
If you want to be a part of it, I can explain the things that I talked to you about. So, when I left you last month, I told you that, eventually we would need to approve additional services for them to make changes from the documents that we currently had to reflect where departments may move and some changes that are on there. But before we did that, we wanted to put a budget to what that looked like to see if we were in the ballpark for the renovation portion. So I thought to give you a little background, because some of you weren't here, to bring you back up to speed. I gave you 3 sets of documents, and I numbered them 1, 2, and 3, meaning number 1 is the first set of plans that was designed and bid out for the renovation of the old courthouse. And you'll see that that was dated back in September of 2023. So we designed it, we bid it out, and it came in around $5 million, which was over the budget of what was anticipated for the renovation side of it. Drawing number 2 was a reduced scope of drawing number 1 with the intent to rebid and bring the cost down. So you'll see in drawing number 2, the difference between number 1, if you flip to the second page, it's G004, largely up in the northeast corner, which is the old north courtroom. There was no work being done in there. And the reduction in regards to the scope of the MEP was really getting to some finishes. So this document was out for bid, and we were in the midst of having an addendum to add some fire alarm scope to the work, and that's when the transition with the administrator took place with Becky that came on, and she wanted to revisit the layout and the scope of this work with the department heads before we finished the bidding. So we basically stopped the bidding of number 2, so we did not get competitive bids for that. Our goal was to see a budget between $3.5 to $4 million for number 2. So we were looking for $1 million to $1.5 million worth of savings from 1 to 2, but we never got hard bids to confirm that. So if you take number 3 differs from 1 and 2 in the fact that if you look on this front page right here, where this blue area, this red area, everything that's on the southern side of the existing entrance from the old courthouse where you would come in that corridor, nothing in that corridor and nothing on the south side of that would have any work done to it. It would remain untouched. So it's essentially the county clerk's office, anything that's done in the old sheriff's office, and that corridor that's in there, and Tim's old office, nothing would be done in this scope. What does happen is that human services basically remains largely untouched, other than upgrades and finishes. So you're going to see new flooring, new ceilings, and new paint within those spaces. There's some minor changes, but nothing real significant. The ADRC still is renovated, so you're gonna see a good chunk of the work that's done in this scope is that we have to get that corridor developed through first floor and second floor so that it's a better situation than what it is right now. But then ADRC is represented that that's gonna be there on first floor on the north side, and Veterans is there on the south side. If you flip the page to floor number 2, this is where the changes take place, is that on this model, Health Department stays where they're at with just finishes again. Upgrades on flooring, paint, and ceilings. And then the north courtroom now becomes the offices for the county clerk, the treasurer, and register of deeds. So that space that in option number 2 was untouched, now we're renovating that. And then you can see the departments have shifted up along this other side. So Becky has met with all the department heads. Everyone is in agreement with these layouts. So it's really, it's taking the old courtroom that was once untouched, now we're renovating that, and then the lower portion of that on first floor is remaining untouched. And the reason for that is that that could be future use for a community room or potentially a daycare, but that decision isn't being made today because there would be none of that work done in this concept. So with that said, we priced this option number 3, and again, it wasn't a hard bid, but I had my estimating team work with vendors to find out what the cost would be. And the cost to do this number 3 option, we would anticipate to be about $3.9 million. Now that is without a contingency. So we would want to have about a 10% contingency on that. So in order to stay under the $4 million, we're gonna have to reduce some scope in this to keep that within $3.5 to $4 million. Now, what I shared with Becky, and I did talk to Jeremy about it as well, in this pricing concept, we went through and replaced all flooring, except for in the main corridors where the terrazzo would be. That would just be refinished and touched up. We replaced all the flooring, we painted all the walls along with the renovations that are in here, and then we came in and put entirely new ceilings, which would be grid and tile. There would be a potential savings of around $100,000 to $150,000 if we just replaced the tile and not the grid. And since we're not doing significant changes, because before when we were doing changes, you would have to change the layout of those ceiling grid, I'm sorry. Because there's reduced scope in changing the footprint of those rooms, it would make some sense just to update the tile, not this tile, the tile that is more user-friendly, but a tile rather than the grid. So if we take that into consideration, if that decision was made, and we could do that as an alternate, so we would have a base bid that doesn't have the entirely new ceilings, and then we could have an adder so that you could accept them. That would get us in that, 3.7, 3.75. We still have to have a contingency line item that's in there. What I did talk to my team about is that if we can move this forward with getting it bid within the next couple of months, we do have an environment, or right now a bidding climate, where I believe you're gonna get a fair amount of numbers from contractors, and I believe it's gonna be competitive, because contractors are looking for work to be able to provide work for their crews throughout the winter, because this would be an all winter work. We do anticipate that the scope of this would take anywhere from 9 to 12 months. It's really gonna depend on how much we can get in and do at a time. So obviously, that second floor is largely unoccupied, so we're able to get in and get started on that. When we get down on that first floor with some of those departments, we're basically gonna be moving them out of some of the rooms, getting in and doing the finishes and moving them back. That may take a little bit longer than having large areas to be able to redo the work. So, with that said, where we stand is, if you are comfortable with this approach, we would need your authorization to then have Venture revise the drawings. And that number is included in this budget, but it's a $49,000 change to have them do those changes. And what they're changing is the floor plans and the specifications over the course of the next month to 6 weeks. And what I would have them do is have them come up here, meet with Becky, Tim, and Jeremy to talk about the scope of these floor plans, bring them back to you for approval, and then we would have them get out on the street for bid. So I would have the staff involved with them while they're finalizing, because again, these are really conceptual at this point in some of these areas, and then bring them back to you for approval before we put it out for bid.
So you're basically blocking the areas in this diagram.
Yeah,
You're- You're not looking at office divisions and.
No, the area that we really need to look at is right now, it's just kind of conceptual up there in that clerk treasurer deed suite, which it sounds like there may be a desire to have more of an open concept. You bring up another thing that makes me think of something else. In that number, there is no furniture in that budget. So that would be reusing existing furniture. So understand that if we're gonna do furniture, it's not that you couldn't do the project and you wanted to budget for furniture later, but we don't have furniture in that number as well, so.
So it also includes the 3.9 million improves not the ceiling, the flooring, the paint, and putting in all the new walls.
Yes.
And what about air?
All we're doing with air, we're not upgrading any air handlers. If the ceiling layout changes, we're just gonna relocate the diffusers that are in there. In that north courtroom, obviously that changes because we're adding some more zones, so there will be some VAV boxes in there, but it's not an overhaul of the mechanical and electrical.
What kind of shape is that? Well, just Jeremy, can you address how?
So the air handlers that are in that old building, there's 6 of them over there, and I've replaced all 6 of those air handlers since I've been in position. So I'd say in the past 6 years, I've replaced all of those. So that's the head end of the unit. At the tail end, again, it's just going to be diffusers, or potentially putting in a new zone, like in the north courtroom, where it goes into a bigger area. Right now, it's only 2 zones. You might have to split that up depending on what it looks like at the end. If it's an open area like this, it's one thing. If they're going to be offices, new thermostats and zones would have to be put in.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we get that. So all of a sudden you got one office ice cold, the other one
Right.
hot.
My question regarding the north courtroom was distributing networking and power, because that ceiling, we can't work in that, and the concrete floor, we can't work in that.
Yeah, and that's what until we get into the detail of what that looks like, because there was an idea of having that be more of an open concept, we're gonna have to figure out what that looks like to be able to get those connections. That's really why I want you involved in that design.
Okay, and then, quick question for you. Was there anything in your plans regarding where the networking cabling would go in the new areas? And then are we restringing anything in the old areas?
We didn't plan on restringing any of that, so that'll be something we'd have to work out on the scope.
Yeah, thanks.
So the only area that's not going to be touched is the old sheriff's office, is that correct?
And I think it's the Wisconsin room, that what's called by John's office, and then the
County clerks.
The clerk's office.
And the registered deeds, the existing registered deeds.
So if you walked in that old entrance where the security
off to the
station
left.
used to be, and where that hallway was, everything south of that corridor would be untouched. And in that number, we are not putting sprinklers through the old building because it's not required. You could, if you're gonna do a childcare in the future, then that could be a sprinklered portion of the building. But right now, to keep the scope down, we're not touching any of that.
Was there money set aside for this? And if not, where's the money coming from?
That's one thing. John?
There is like 3.9.
There's what, John?
3.9 million.
Oh, there's.
That we can find.
Yeah.
We've been targeting between that 3.5 and 4. That's why when it was over, we tried to get it back down. So I believe right now we're in the ballpark, right? And what we need to do is get Venture to finalize this design so that we can firm up some of Tim's concerns about networking and make sure that Jeremy and Becky are good with the scope. But that's why we're in a position, we kind of, months ago, we said, let's have Venture look at this. We paused until we were gonna find out where the grant is. Now we're to a point where we're gonna keep that scope reduced, but give you the flexibility in the future that if you do wanna do something with that south wing, you can without it limiting your options because of the layout, so.
So if it stays like, stays like this, we're not gonna do nothing in the south, but where it's community room, that won't even be made into a community room, so that, nothing will happen there
Correct.
at all. It's an
Correct.
awful nice space to leave go. And that 3.9, John, that's like, that's COVID money and, you would take it from different, I think there's like 5 different entities into that.
She's on the line now, so I don't know if she can hear us or not.
Yeah, I can hear, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I can't hear what John Austin is saying, but I'm hearing everyone else. I don't know if he's on a microphone or not, but
Sometimes Becky not being able to hear John, that's not such a bad thing, is it?
Yeah. I was
oh,
saying,
poor John.
I was thinking there was 3.9 million basically set aside, but I said Rebecca might have some other ideas for it, so.
There is about 3.9. And if you remember, I did give you the potential CIP plan that laid out projects for the next coming 5 years. And in that CIP plan, I did identify additional funds for this project, feeling like we might be that it might be really tight and that we would need some extra funds to finish the project to this level. So I had set aside an extra $1 million. I didn't want to tell Kurt that because I wanted to make sure that these numbers came in lower and we were really targeting that lower piece. So that is, again, the broader conversation of that debt conversation that we have yet to come, but that has been identified in that borrowing. The other conversation is that we, in talking with Kurt, we talked about just putting out in the bids is finding out how much it would cost to just sprinkle that area. So that it was a part of this project. I'll tell you, the more and more conversations I'm having with community members, with community leaders, I really do believe that childcare is just such a huge issue that we should be thinking about how are we going to get to not only activating that here in Whitehall, but across the county. And so I'm continuing conversations. I will be meeting with all of the superintendents coming up soon. And I wanted to, just because I do think we are at a crisis with that. And it's the potential for that to get worse is very worrisome to me. And so I think that, there are other potential opportunities for funding, again, changing the scope of what I was hoping for. If we had the additional funds, I was hoping for a complete tear out and actually making the space new to childcare and community center that would be, exactly how we want it. But if we change the scope and think about how we use the existing walls and things like that, though, there could be potential for, just changing how we get that done. And then also some outside funding that I'm looking for right now, which I don't really want to talk about right now until I have a little bit more information that's a little bit more solid on that. But that's why I feel like if we could move forward potentially on the sprinkling, that would, set us up for future work on that area.
This sprinkling would be in the childcare area only, or the rest of the building?
Just in the childcare area.
Okay, okay. I do have a quick question for you. In looking at this, you've seen this possible layout that
I have.
Kurt handed out. In the human service area, I'm just interested in terms of what, I assume you had suggested this particular area, what offices,
I think you mean human resources.
I'm sorry. I had said, what did I say, human
Human
services?
services, yeah.
Oh, okay, human resources, yeah.
It sounds like, doesn't it? I'm just curious in terms of, obviously you have begun to incorporate other services within that area. And can you
Yes.
give us just an inkling of what you're thinking in terms of incorporating within that
Sure.
administrative office?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, that looks a little bit big compared to other, and I'm kind of thinking too about how, as we work through the process with venture, is thinking, how much space is needed we need an office up there for John, for whoever the chair is, right? Those are things. There's in the admin office, thinking about financial team. I've already started that a little bit with bringing Amy into that fold, but to have a financial team there. And then we've got the IT right across the hall. It's the IT media type of incorporated all in that space. And I'm in conversations right now, and so it kind of as positions open up, I think it's good that we're reevaluating. At some point, I'd like to figure out how we're building in grant writing. And I think I have a good possibility of how to accomplish that. I'll be bringing that forward some more as we go forward here in the next month or two. But that'll probably all go to the personnel bargaining first as I start to talk about those things. But so that's kind of where the admin area is identified for. And again, I don't know if it's that much space, but it just looks like a lot right now, but I don't know that it's that much.
Well, I guess my concurrence would be in that it's certainly worthwhile planning for the future. Having enough space.
Part of it, yeah. Yeah, and there's like right now we have a really nice space that's a conference room, and we're getting a lot of use out of that. So I want to make sure that we identify that conference space, and in the courtroom area or where the clerk's office area, we put in another conference room so that the health department would have space. And I don't know if that's big enough. Again, some of that may shift a bit as we look at, but the health department where they're at right now, if we pull a meeting room out and put it into a more shared space out of their area, then everybody can use it. And so anyway, those are just some of the conversations I think as we look at with venture and looking at how much space do we have right now for individuals, and then how much in that area will be used.
All right, does anybody have any other questions or that, if she's talking about the sprinkler system and we're gonna get a bid, that could be a totally separate bid.
Oh, yeah, we could treat that in what I. shared
Alternate
with Becky
bid.
In regards to her ideas of demoing it and leaving it untouched, or demoing it, putting sprinklers in there. We can make each one of them alternates and step into it however we want. We would just have to determine to venture to what level do we do that design. So yeah, we can do the ceilings. You just don't want to have too many alternates that it scares people
Right.
away, that it's a math nightmare. But if you keep it within reason, then it gives you an opportunity to pick and choose based on how the numbers come in, so.
What is your idea of numbers for furnishings?
Yeah, we could get a price on furniture too, you know, and then at that point, you have the number in regards to what the furniture could be, and you can make that decision.
Yeah, I think we should have that just so we can see where we're
Sure.
actually sitting, because if all of a sudden you approve it and all of a sudden you realize, hey, this ain't gonna work quite like this, but what we got, and then you're just putting yourself in a bigger hole.
Yep.
And can you get an alternate bid to open? I just think that the clerk's office that they have now, that you have as a community room, I mean, that's just such a nice big space that if we need to go, I mean, it'd be a shame not to have that available.
Sure.
And just even if we just open it up and leave it like
Yep.
that, at least it'll be for future. If we found out that we need more space one or spot or another,
Yep.
it's available.
And we can work through those details once we get.
And that's not much of a cost. to
Venture
tear-
engaged. yeah.
Destruction's always a lot cheaper than construction.
Well, that part of the building, though, not so much in where Paul's area is, but the balance of that is block and it's a.
Oh, right, yeah, but that area is
Yeah,
not too much.
correct.
Because none of those walls are structure weight bearing.
Yep.
So. What exactly direction?
We just
you
need
want?
approval from you guys to move forward with venture for the redesign.
How much will that
I
cost?
believe it was $49,600.
Okay.
I would make that motion.
Motion by Dick to go ahead with the project.
I'll second.
Seconded by-
Project design.
Project design, excuse me. Yeah. Project design. You'd have been in trouble.
I don't think we can do the other.
He seconded by Renee. I think this probably should be a roll vote. Correct? I think we
What's to
need,
do with money?
it's got to do with money. You're spending money here. So it'd be a roll vote.
You want to start with me?
You start. Or do you want me to start? Okay. Renee?
Yes, aye.
Richard?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Audie? Yes. John? I don't know if you're not on this. Okay. I don't know, you're on top of the pile here. I didn't know if you rule over everybody or what. All right. Then we'll just put this also on next month's agenda too right away, to make sure we get it there. What else do we have here? Next up is date and time. I put this on in case anybody forgot that we did set that at the last meeting. So everybody puts it in their calendar. I think we should make a note, Dawn, on the next agenda for the full board, that this is the time they're gonna have the walkthrough. So they all get made aware of it so that everybody will be happy.
This is going to be just county board members, this is not for public.
No, just county board members and, I don't know, maybe department heads or something, but they've been through everything already anyway, so. But county board members, yeah, not for the public.
Yeah, the way we typically handle it is that the way we typically handle it is we would work and walk through with your maintenance department, Jeremy, because he's obviously cataloging the things that he's dealing with, and our team will go through and create a list and then get them out to the contractors for corrective action. But all of you are invited to attend if you want. It may be boring for you because we're going to walk through and talk about things, but you are invited to come along. So.
It is good.
This is October 21st, was that
First.
the dates?
Yep,
At
21st.
9 o'clock?
yep.
Got it, thank you.
What is the turnaround time for the redesign?
When I talked to them originally, they talked about 6 weeks. So I need to confirm that because it's been a while since I talked to them, but about 6 weeks. Yeah. So we won't have full excuse me, we won't have full drawings for you to approve in October. That won't be the case. It would be after that. And we might, in October, decide that if you want to have a special meeting just to go over that, maybe we do that before your November meeting. But that can be something we determine as to how things are progressing.
I just want to make you guys aware that your November meeting lands on Veterans Day. So we are closed, and
Oh, yeah. Well, we have to,
If you wanna
yeah.
have it that first week.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, we'll have a better handle of it at our October meeting, so I think we'll be okay. But we'll have to decide then, yeah, and keep us aware, and we'll put that on the agenda too, especially when we got note, maybe highlight it that it is Veterans Day.
I think we want to move as quickly as possible if we want to get this, this thing rolling and bids and so forth. So the sooner we can meet as a board to make a decision,
Yeah,
the better.
yeah, as soon as you find out, Kurt, once they get the plans together, so if we need a special meeting, we can call one here and maybe get it on the full board agenda for, I don't think it's possible for October yet, but it would be nice, but in November.
Okay, sounds good.
Another question. The November meeting will be the budget meeting too. Is that correct?
The full board meeting?
I'm sorry?
When is,
Or are you talking about?
Approving the budget for the operation here.
yeah,
That'll be November, won't it, John?
right,
County board, yeah.
yep,
That'll be, okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, cause that meeting's at 10 a.m. that county board.
yeah.
yeah.
On the date,
November 12th, it will be at 10 a.m. that day.
So technically, if you're talking about approval from the board, you technically wouldn't need to take it to the board until we receive bids. So we will be bringing you drawings, hopefully, sometime between your October and your November meeting to approve to go out for bid, and then we're gonna need about a month's time to bid. And then when we bring the bids back, that's when you would take it to the full board. So that November month wouldn't be, I don't think it would have to go to the board at all. It's more than likely December or January, based on the timing of how the bids would come in.
But it should go to it'll have to go to the board to approve requesting bids.
No, you guys can, you guys can authorize it going out to bid, because you're not spending any more funds than what you approved here today. Gets us bid documents and we can put it out on the street. So
Okay.
until we get the bids, those bids then would take board action, because you're gonna approve them and the funding has to be tied to that. That's when that would come together. It would not need to be done previous to that. Now, if you want me to give an update to the board that you're doing it, I could come and let them know what we're doing, but you would not need board action.
Yeah. I think we need to involve the board.
I think it's good to let them get caught up on
Yeah,
exactly where we're
absolutely.
sitting, what's
Absolutely.
going on, and that's a good idea, Dick, I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you want me to come to the October meeting then and give an update?
I think that's a good idea, and if you could present the documents so everybody knows exactly what you're talking about.
What you
and
know by then, anyway.
Yep. What date is the board meeting?
It's,
It'll be the 21st.
yeah.
21st, okay. And that's 7 o'clock?
That would be a 7 o'clock meeting.
Okay. Maybe we'll move our walkthrough later so that I can be here in the afternoon before the board meeting. It's the same day.
Yeah.
Would you be opposed to that?
No, I don't think most of us would be.
If we did it in the afternoon, and maybe if we did like a walkthrough at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and then then I'm over here for the board meeting, that would help me rather than,
That's good. That'd be good.
okay. Yeah, let's do that.
So what time?
If you guys are okay, let's meet at 3 o'clock on the 21st. That's for the walkthrough,
Yep, sounds good.
and then I'll be here for the board meeting.
okay, yeah, we get it all in a day.
Yep,
3 o'clock, you said.
yep.
PM.
So what did you come up with for a meeting date, your next meeting?
The next meeting is gonna be, it's supposed to be October 14th, but we're gonna have the walk through October 21st. But do we wanna have a meeting that day too, or just have our regular meeting on the 14th? And then have the walkthrough in the October 21st?
I think
in the-
timing-wise, it would be good maybe if you met on the 14th, so if there's anything that's going through the design.
Yeah.
And then I would target that they may have that design done by the last week in October, so you may need a special meeting in October. So I might see you 3 times in October, if you're okay with that, with the walkthrough included. But if we kind of left that tentative right now until we see how the design progresses.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Rebecca, there's a meeting, county board meeting that night too, right, at 6 o'clock?
7.
There is, right, for the budget, yes.
Budget. Budget one,
On October
on the
14th.
14th.
Is that meeting at
Oh.
6 o'clock?
Yeah, 6
Yes,
Okay.
That means what time, Doc? 10? 6?
That's the 21st.
On the, so the budget one
the
is.
14th as well. Yeah,
So the full board meeting at 6 o'clock on the 14th to go over the budget.
Okay. And then we'll have a meeting at, on the 14th in the morning. And
8:30, yep.
8:30. Okay, everybody on board with that? Anybody else have anything else? Anybody have any questions for Kurt or anything else on the project or the courthouse renovation? If not, we just set the dates for the next meetings. Nobody else has anything else? Well, it is exactly 9:16, so I'll call this meeting adjourned.